The alarm cut through the station like a blade before I even reached the maintenance hatch. Red light pulsed along the corridor walls, and I could hear boots slamming against metal grating somewhere behind me, closing fast. I had maybe 90 seconds before the patrol reached this junction, and if they found me here, in a restricted ring with a stolen access chip in my pocket, there would be no talking my way out of it. My name is Owen Bell, and 3 weeks earlier, I did not know that any of this was possible. I did not know that alien grief could be stored on a drive. I did not know that a woman could keep her dead husband alive in fragments of code, or that loving someone that hard could become a crime. All I knew, in that moment, sprinting through a service tunnel on Catherine Station, with my heart slamming against my ribs, was that Vesa needed me on the other side of that hatch before the enforcers reached her door. I ducked into the crawl space and pulled the hatch shut behind me, just as the patrol rounded the corner. Their voices echoed through the metal, sharp and clipped, speaking in the same trade standard I had spent months learning just to talk to her. I held my breath and counted. 10 seconds. 20. Their footsteps faded toward the east ring, away from Vesa's pod. I kept moving. To understand why I was crawling through a station's guts with a stolen chip and enforcers on my trail, you have to understand what I found the night Vesa finally let me past her front room. I had been visiting her for a month by then, ever since she invited me home from the observation deck where the light off the gas giant painted everything the color of a bruise. She was Thakari, tall and silver-skinned, with eyes that moved like they were always watching something just out of reach. Her husband, Drakel, had died 11 years earlier. She kept his chair exactly as he left it, and she made his tea every evening, even though there was no one left to drink it. I thought that was the whole story, a woman clinging to memory, the way my own grandmother clung to a pair of old boots by the door. I thought I understood grief. I did not understand anything yet. One night, after weeks of visits, she took my hand and led me past the front room, through a narrow hallway I had never seen her open, into a small chamber lit by a single soft blue panel. In the center of the room stood a cylinder of dark glass, humming faintly, wired into the wall with cables that looked older than the station itself. Inside the glass, a shape moved. It took me a moment to understand what I was looking at. A projection, faint and flickering, shaped like a Thakari man. He turned his head when Vesa stepped closer. He smiled at her, the way you smile at someone you have known your whole life. "This is Drakel," she said quietly, "or what is left of him." She explained it to me slowly, the way you explain something you are ashamed of. Years ago, before the Thakari Council banned the technology, families could record a full pattern of a dying loved one's mind. Not a recording, not a photograph. A living echo, built from years of memory and neural mapping, able to think, to respond, to remember you back. It was meant to ease the worst of grief in the first days after a death. It was never meant to last 11 years. The council outlawed echoes after they discovered what long-term use did to both the echo and the person keeping it. The echoes degraded over time, memories rotting out of order, the personality drifting further from the person it was built to preserve. And the ones who kept them past the mourning period grew sick in a different way, unable to let go of something that was slowly, painfully, becoming someone else. "He forgets things now," Vesa told me, her hands folded the way they always were when she was holding herself together. "Small things at first, my sister's name, the color of our first home. Now he sometimes forgets why he is angry, that I am still speaking to him after all this time. And then a moment later he remembers, and it happens again, like a wound that will not close." I looked at the shape in the glass, flickering, smiling, already fading even as it smiled. "Why keep him running, if it hurts you this much?" "Because the alternative is that he simply stops," she said, "and I am not ready to be the one who ends him twice." That was the night everything changed between us. Not because I understood her pain completely, but because I finally understood what she had been hiding since the observation deck. It was never just an old woman's grief. It was a secret she had been carrying alone for 11 years, illegal and shrinking and precious. And she had let me see it because she could no longer carry it by herself. I should have told her to report it. I should have told her to let the council's engineers shut it down properly, with care, instead of risking a raid. But I had watched my own father fade in a hospital bed for 6 months, And I knew there was no version of losing someone that anyone gets to plan gently. So instead of reporting her, I helped her hide it better. I rerouted power signatures. I falsified maintenance logs. I told myself I was buying her time. I was wrong about how much time we had. 3 days ago, a routine energy sweep flagged an unregistered power draw in the outer ring. I found out from a friend in station operations, a woman named Grace Whitmore, who ran security sweeps for the Council Enforcement Division. Grace and I had known each other since my first month on Kethrin, back when she still trusted me enough to share gossip over coffee in the mess hall. "There's a flag on Sector 9, she told me, not knowing what she was telling me. "Illegal tech signature. Enforcement is moving on it tomorrow night." Sector 9, Vessa's home. I did not sleep that night. I spent it instead breaking into the maintenance archive with a chip I had no business owning, trying to find a way to mask the signature before the sweep locked onto it permanently. I failed. The signature was too old, too deeply threaded into the station's original architecture, impossible to hide without shutting the whole system down and drawing even more attention. So when the alarm went off that night, 3 weeks after I first saw Dracal flicker inside his glass cylinder, I already knew what it meant. Enforcement had moved early. I reached Vessa's hatch and dropped down into her front room to find her already awake, standing very still in the middle of the space, staring at the hallway that led to Dracal's chamber. The grief textiles on her walls had shifted to a deep, agitated red, colors reacting to something in her that words had not yet caught up to. "They are coming," she said. It was not a question. "We have maybe 6 minutes," I said. "Grace's team moves fast once they lock a location. Then there is no time to save him." I grabbed her hand before she could turn away, before she could disappear into that quiet acceptance I had watched her wear for 11 years like a second skin. "There's a transport hub 2 levels down," I said. "Unregistered maintenance craft, small enough to slip past the ring scanners if we time it right. If we can get the drive core out of that chamber and off this station before enforcement locks it down, we still have a chance. And if they catch us moving stolen technology through a restricted zone, then we're in worse trouble than we already are," I said. "But at least it's a chance instead of a certainty." She looked at me for a long moment, both lids drawing back the way they did when something inside her held its breath. Then she nodded, and we ran. The chamber was exactly as I remembered it, blue light humming, Dracal's shape flickering inside the glass, calmer than either of us in that moment, unaware that his existence was about to be decided in the next 4 minutes. Vessa moved to the base of the cylinder and began disconnecting the housing cables with hands that trembled, but did not stop moving. I grabbed the reinforced case we had built weeks earlier for exactly this possibility, though neither of us had admitted out loud why we were building it. The drive core came free with a soft mechanical click, small enough to fit inside 2 cupped hands, glowing faintly even outside the glass. Vessa held it like it might shatter if she breathed too hard. We were halfway back through the front room when the outer door blew inward. 3 enforcers in matte gray armor filled the doorway, weapons raised, red targeting lights sweeping the room before locking onto us both. Behind them, Grace stepped through, her expression unreadable, a data slate glowing in her hand. "Owen," she said, and there was something almost tired in the way she said my name, like she had hoped it would not come to this. "Step away from her." "Grace, listen. I already know what's in that case," she said. "The sweep flagged it an hour ago. I told the team I wanted to lead the entry personally. I did that so I could talk you out of whatever you're about to do before someone gets hurt." "Nobody has to get hurt," I said, keeping my voice level even as my pulse hammered in my ears. "Let us take him somewhere quiet. Somewhere off the grid. Let this end without a raid report and a confiscation." "You know I can't do that." "You can," Vessa said, stepping forward before I could stop her, the case cradled against her chest. "You have simply decided not to." Grace's eyes moved to her, and for a moment the hardness in her expression cracked just slightly. "You know why the council banned these," Grace said, quieter now. "You've watched what it's done to you. 11 years, Vessa. You are killing yourself slowly to keep something running that is already dying anyway." "Then let it be my choice how it ends," Vessa said. "Not a squad's, not a report, mine." The 2 enforcers flanking Grace shifted their weight, weapons still raised, waiting on her word. I could feel the seconds bleeding away, every one of them a chance for this to go from tense to violent. I thought about 6 months in a hospital room, about my father's hand growing lighter every week, until it barely felt like a hand at all, about how badly I had wanted someone, anyone, to let me choose how that ending happened, instead of watching machines decide it for me. Grace, I said, you have known me 2 years. You know I don't lie to you. Give us 1 hour. 1 hour to bring him somewhere she can let him go properly, on her own terms, without an audience and a confiscation log. After that, I will personally hand you every scrap of evidence you need to close this clean. Grace looked at the case in Vessa's arms, then at me, then at the 2 enforcers waiting for her order. 1 hour, she said finally, and Owen carries the case, not her. If I so much as think you're running instead of grieving, I will not hesitate. She lowered her weapon hand, and slowly, the 2 enforcers behind her did the same. We did not run. We walked, Vessa's hand shaking in mine, out through the ruined doorway, and down toward the old observation deck where all of this had started, the one place on the station that still felt like it belonged only to us. Grace let us go alone. I think, in her own way, she needed to believe that some things deserved privacy, even inside a system built to allow none. The gas giant hung outside the viewport exactly as it had the night we met, huge and bruised and beautiful in a way neither large nor small could fully describe. Vessa set the case down on the bench where we had first spoken, and opened it with hands that had finally stopped shaking, as if the worst of the fear had burned itself out and left only the grief underneath. Drakel's shape flickered to life above the open case, thinner now, dimmer, but still smiling the way he always smiled when he saw her. You brought me somewhere new, he said, his voice soft and uneven, like a signal fighting static. I did, Vessa answered. Why does it feel like an ending? She did not answer right away. She reached out, her hand passing through the light where his shoulder would have been, and for just a moment, I watched 11 years of holding on settle into something quieter, something closer to peace than I had ever seen on her face. Because it is one, she said, but it is the ending I chose, not the one that was taken from me. The light flickered, dimmed, steadied one last time. Thank you for 11 more years, he said. I would not have wanted to leave without them. The glow faded slowly, not cut off, not erased, simply allowed to finish, like a sentence spoken all the way to its final word, instead of being interrupted halfway through. When it was gone, Vessa did not cry the way I expected her to. She simply sat very still, watching the space where he had been, breathing in a way that looked, for the first time since I had known her, like breathing without a weight pressing down on it. Grace never filed the report the way the department wanted. She logged the tech as voluntarily surrendered and destroyed by the owner, no raid, no confiscation, no names beyond what was strictly required. I never asked her why. I think she understood something that night, that the council's rules did not leave room for, that some endings deserve to belong to the person living through them, not the system standing over their shoulder. Vessa still visits the observation deck most evenings now. She still keeps Drakel's chair in the front room, though the grief textiles have finally begun to shift toward calmer colors after 11 years of red. She does not make his tea anymore. She told me once that she finally understood the difference between remembering someone and refusing to let them go, and that the first one, it turned out, did not require a machine at all. I still visit too, most evenings, sitting in the third chair, the one that was never his and was never quite mine either, until she started leaving it out for me on purpose. We do not talk about that night very often. We do not need to. Some things do not get smaller by repeating them, only heavier. And we both learned a long time ago that grief carried by 2 people is the only kind that ever really gets lighter at all.